Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle.
Michelle's a rock star today, by the way.
You're a rock star. Look at your pretty flower matching your pretty shirt.
I'm getting ready. You need to. You look like something from the '80s hair bands, man. Like, yeah, you need an electric guitar.
I have one. Well, it's acoustic electric.
Not quite the
it's
same.
kind of anyway.
Yeah.
All right, today is April 26, 2019. We're not going to lead with the crash.
We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff.
Okay, we have so much to bring you. There's a crash in Denver. We've got Trump. I'm not old. What was that? I mean, what is that?
Young.
I'm young, like a young guy.
Old person.
Speaking of being old, Joe Biden is 76 years old.
Yeah. Wow.
If he gets elected, I think he'll be like 77 or 78 when he's in office, when he starts his term. That means when he finishes, if he's in there for 4 years, he'll be 82. If he's in there for 8 years, he'll be 86. I can do math.
Wow.
That's like crazy talk. This is not like geriatrics bashing, okay?
No.
But Biden's the best they have. If you guys didn't catch our stream yesterday,
we're going to talk about Biden a lot. But at first, people are coming. I wanted to show you this. This is from a biology class at the University of San Diego. They are teaching kids that fetuses are like cancers. This is a slide that a student took from the University of San Diego saying the fetus is a legitimate parasite. It, quote, rapidly grows. It invades. It manipulates immunity of the mother, which actually I've heard of people actually getting healed when they get. Yeah, it should be touted as a medical miracle. And reshapes the blood vessels. Actually, women who get pregnant actually get healthier. The cancer crashes the party, rapidly grows, invades, manipulates immunity, and reshapes blood vessels.
No. Wow. Can you guys believe that?
Science doesn't believe in science anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, so let's go to the crash.
That's creepy.
What do you mean media can't be loaded?
Now they're going to censor the crash.
No.
So I'm sharing this on Twitter and Facebook.
4 have died. Too. A semi-driver has been arrested after an I-70 fiery crash involving 28 vehicles. The westbound lanes are open. This man right here, the driver of a semi that caused a deadly fiery 28 vehicle crash on I-70 Thursday afternoon will face 4 counts of vehicular homicide. Authorities said Friday morning. His name was Rogelio Lazaro Aguilera Medeiros of Houston, Texas, 23 years old. Traffic was stopped and he didn't realize it, and he plowed into them, causing cars to just pile up.
Thanks for joining us on Denver 7 News at 11. I'm Brian Sanders.
And I'm Molly Hendrickson. Moments ago, we got an update on this fiery crash that killed several people on I-70 in Lakewood. Crews have been on the scene all night working to figure out just what happened.
The images are still tough to look at, and we know at least 24 cars and 4 semi-trucks were involved in that crash. Sadly, we now know at least 4 people are confirmed dead. All 4 people were in separate cars. And investigators say there's so much damage and it's so severe they're having trouble identifying the vehicles. But Lakewood police say they do have the suspect in custody.
Denver 7's Nicole Brady is live where a press conference just wrapped up. And Nicole, what do we know about the suspect and the victims in this crash? Well, we know, sadly, that there are 4 people who lost their lives. By all accounts, they were just individual drivers who were caught up in that traffic jam on I-70 eastbound yesterday and likely never saw this horrible end coming. And we know the suspect is 23-year-old Rogelio Aguilera Medeiros. He is a truck driver out of Texas. And we are told that he has been arrested and is expected to be charged with 4 counts of vehicular homicide. He was driving eastbound on I-70 yesterday when authorities say he appears to have failed to maintain control and plowed right into those other drivers.
There is just a bunch of debris from this crash that took place. The carnage was significant. Unbelievable.
Yeah, really one of the worst crashes Lakewood police have ever seen. Certainly the worst I ever saw close up. Cars unrecognizable. They said they can't even identify what style of vehicle some of those cars are. And it is going to take them some time today to clear the roadway so that CDOT can then get in and investigate what damage was done to the road. Jason Luber has been tracking that part of this because drivers, of course, are going to be
Right.
Do we know how many people were injured? Because we always hear that 4 dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people injured in vehicle crashes, I mean,
Right.
their lives are often forever changed. Their family members are probably praying. You should be praying for them.
St. Anthony's Hospital confirmed Friday that they had 10 patients from the crash. 9 of the 10 had been treated and released.
Good. Praise God.
The one man was still hospitalized in good condition.
Good.
7 patients were transported by ambulance. The number one focus for Lakewood Police Department is to investigate the crash and bring justice to the families of the crash victims. So it seems that there might have been people in this crash who were not affected physically from the crash itself.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, if it's a 28 car pileup, by the time the cars at the end get, there, it's, probably a little bit different.
And this really kind of brings to what my mom would always tell us.
Good afternoon. I'm
Is
Josh.
that when you get behind a vehicle, you are walking around with a loaded gun.
It's a deadly weapon.
It is a deadly weapon. And I hope that this kind of gives everybody a little bit more, a fresh
Respect.
I don't want people to be afraid, but a fresh respect for the fact that we're not in horses and buggies anymore. We're in vehicles that travel upwards of 75 miles an hour on any given time and any given day. When we were taking our dogs to Middletown, Ohio for some doggy chiropractic, on the way back, it was on the 3-lane highway, and I was in the far left lane, and my unbeknownst to me at the time, I figured it had to be an engine failure or a fuel pump.
It was the fuel pump.
And the fuel pump went out, so I still had inertia taking me forward.
But you had to cross over 4 lanes.
I had to cross over three
or 4 lanes.
Two more lanes. I had to go over 2 lanes to get over, and there was a giant dump truck going maybe 35 miles an hour,
and you couldn't speed up to get in front of
and
it.
I
You
was
couldn't
not
slow down
going
to get behind
to
it.
put my foot on the brake
Exactly,
because I still had inertia going forward, and it was the most terrifying thing. And I still have daydream nightmares of what would happen if the car stopped in the middle of the highway,
and then you have all those cars piling up.
It wasn't scary. I would not be scared on any other road.
Right.
Because if I'm on any road around here, anything under 45, people are going to see you stopped. You put on your blinkers, and I'm not worried about that. You can jump out. You can get out real quick. But there's no way I'm getting out. That is one of the most dangerous roads. I hate interstates.
Yeah.
I think they're the most dangerous places. And we have I-75 here. They have I-70. And every day you hear somebody getting in a car accident, and you hear people dying.
Yeah.
On the highway. It's on the highway that people die. And I just want you guys to think about that the next time you get in your vehicle and you put on that seat buckle. And this is what I don't understand. Democrats don't even acknowledge the fact that they are behind.
Cars kill more than anything.
Kill
almost.
more people than handguns.
Well, obviously than guns.
In accidents all the time.
Yeah.
And they're very dangerous, but I don't see them outlawing cars or maybe recreational travel.
Yeah.
So
you don't have to take that vacation. You don't have to go out to eat.
Right.
I-70 closure at Denver West Boulevard. We have recently just opened westbound, but westbound.
Thought if there's any more pictures of the fire itself. Let me see.
At 6th Avenue are closed down this week.
I was I think 15 years old, and we had a Pontiac Grand Prix, and I was always very excited to be allowed to start the car. And we lived in an apartment complex, and I started the car, and I put a little bit of gas on, and I rolled it forward a little bit. It was parked next to a building, so I could kind of do that. And my mom was yelling at me to stop, and I just thought it was really funny, and I was just kind of joking. And I probably went forward about 10 or 15 feet. And my mom was very, very serious about me stopping. When I finally did stop, she came to me and she said, "Michelle, cars are a deadly weapon. If I don't give you permission to pull it forward, you're not allowed to pull it forward. It's not a joke. You don't ever joke when you're driving a vehicle." And I never got my driver's license until I was 18 years old because of that.
You went... In Oklahoma, you just didn't pass the test.
Well, okay, no. I didn't pass the written test on the first time that I took it, but she still didn't want me to take it.
Broken Arrow was the hardest place to take a test.
She didn't want me to take it. My point is, our mom, who has always been very lenient in every area of our lives because she trusts us, because of that one kind of wrong move, she was like, no, you don't, until you can learn a healthy respect for driving a vehicle, you're not getting your driver's license.
You have never since ever been in an accident, praise the Lord, or gotten a ticket since then.
That's right.
You have no
I
marks.
had a very, very healthy respect.
I have hit 2 parked things, and...
Yeah, but the one was an accident. Well, they were both accidents. But you know what I mean. One was
backed into a vehicle out of a parking lot once.
Yeah.
All right, so... Be careful on the road, guys.
Be very, very careful and pray for your loved ones. And what's more, and this is very important, cars are very dangerous and deadly, but it's important to have a healthy relationship with Jesus Christ and to stay on the highway of holiness.
Absolutely.
And when I talk about the highway of holiness, I mean spiritually. Keep your life right with God. Mm-hmm. God doesn't ever want to take anybody early or young. That's not. Mm-hmm. God doesn't do that. So if you keep your life right, if you keep people out of your life that bring sickness and sin into your life, keep those people out, keep yourself right, then you don't have to walk around in fear, but you still should have that healthy respect every time you get into a vehicle.
Absolutely.
And we always prayed for angels to protect us.
I do every day, all the time, especially on highways.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was some pretty heavy news. Let's lighten up the mood. Now, Donald Trump was asked about Joe Biden being old and how old is too old and what is old. So I want you guys just to hear his response here. How old is too old to be president?
Well, I think that I just feel like a young man. I'm so young.
This is what we call positive.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I'm the youngest person. I'm the youngest
person.
Man. I look at Joe. I don't know about him. I don't know.
Look at that smirk. It stops moving.
I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest, man. I'm the this. I'm the that. Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
You needed that today.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So, Joe Biden let his whole campaign ad is based on calling Donald Trump, saying that the Charlottesville neo-Nazis, the ones that were there for neo-Nazism, were very fine people.
Right.
Now, we all know, you should know by now because we've covered it, that Donald Trump said that there were very fine people on both sides of this debate talking about taking down a monument of General Lee.
Exactly.
Now, saying that General Lee was one of the greatest generals is not condoning slavery.
Exactly.
Because we all know, if you should know through history, that General Lee was not fighting to uphold slavery. There were many nuances to the war. We could definitely take it down to slavery as being post Civil War.
Well, I think yes, but here's the deal: slavery was the symptom of what they were fighting for, but they wanted their individual rights as states to be able to, and so they wanted to secede from the Union because they didn't like that the Union was telling them what they could and could not do within their states, which actually, to an extent, is constitutional. Okay, listen, we joined up. We are little countries. We joined up to be together as a group. But we didn't join up for you to be able to tell us what we can and cannot do. And we have gotten so far removed from that because now the federal government tells us when we can go to bed and when we have to wake up practically.
Right.
But that's not constitutional. Every state should be sovereign.
We're little countries. They should be little countries.
And so a lot of people that were fighting for the Confederacy, and that's why a lot of people don't have an issue with the Confederate flag. I personally wouldn't fly it because I think that it offends a lot of people. But a lot of people that fly the Confederate flag fly it for that sense of the republic where, listen, we are our individual states and we should be able to have our own rights to do what we want to do.
Very interesting. You have a lot of socialists who condemn slavery and history, but they say don't go into Venezuela or don't go to these other countries and control things, right?
Right.
So what about states? You know what I mean? Should you go in and control the states? So it's I think that Abraham Lincoln walked a very fine line.
And he did the right thing and he was right.
They succeeded from the Union.
Yeah.
But while he had the Emancipation Proclamation, he fought hard to have that 13th Amendment passed. He knew that it had to be in the Constitution.
Right.
I have goosebumps all over me. So
Mitt Huckabee, excuse me, I can speak, on Facebook Live wants to know, does anybody know what Biden believes? I know that President Trump has consistently expressed the same values since the 70s. Can Creepy Joe say that?
No, and you have a little thing right here. And if you see some, I can't paint.
You were painting.
I can't get my paint off my hand.
That's all right. It's good quality paint.
Yeah, so that's a really good question because there's a lot in Creepy Joe's closet. He will not be the nominee. He can't be. And if he is, he will be wiped to the floor because Obama knows that he can't get behind Biden. Number one, because Obama did a lot of crazy stuff. Biden was his vice president. Mm-hmm. If they start looking into Biden, they'll find Obama's dark secrets, as well as, did you know that Biden spoke a eulogy for Robert Byrd, who was, remember he was a grand wizard in the KKK.
And
so did Hillary Clinton was there, and
I forgot about that.
Bill Clinton was there. Absolutely insane. But in the 70s, I believe, Joe Biden advocated for segregation. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to play for you a couple clips to kind of get an idea and a feel for who he is, and we're going to keep playing them because he is right now the front runner. He's the guy.
Well, before you play that, I want to say this about Joe Biden and what you were just talking about with the Obamas having all these skeletons in their closet. When Trump has so many clips where he says there was no collusion, there was no obstruction, there was no collusion, there was no obstruction, he could say that with confidence because he knew no matter how fine of a tooth comb that they ran over him and wiretapped and everything, they weren't going to find anything unless they made it up. They were not going to find anything. Biden, Obama, Clinton, none of them can say the same thing. If they are raked with fine tooth combs, it's like it doesn't even take a fine tooth comb. A wide tooth comb will find all of their dirty secrets.
So Carpe Diem, who's been making a lot of really pro-Trump memes that are hilarious.
Donkum,
yeah, that's what I'm. Carpe Donkum. He put this together for Joe Biden.
Charlottesville is also home to a defining moment for this nation in the last few years. That's when we heard the words of the President of the United States that stunned the world and shocked the conscience of this nation.
And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
He said there were, quote, some very fine people on both sides. Very fine people on both sides?
And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
We've heard it so often, it's almost a cliche, but it's who we are. That's what we believe. Crazed faces, veins bulging, spreading hate, bearing the fangs of racism. I believe history will look back on 4 years of this president and all the embraces and the great moment in time. If we give Donald Trump 8 years in the White House, he will forever and fundamentally made America great, and I cannot stand by and watch that happen. I'm announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Well done, Carpe Diem. That's awesome.
Did you see how he said he would make America great?
Yeah. You can't steal the other president's slogan.
No, he said if we give President Trump, he's fit.
Okay.
So he said if we give him 8 years, he'll make America great.
Yeah, because he didn't say that the other day.
And then it says my entire campaign is based on a lie.
Well done.
So here is Jake Tapper, who actually admits.
Let's play some of the sound of President Trump back in 2017, saying it said today that he answered the question perfectly.
Jake Tapper is telling us.
Let's take a listen.
Neo-Nazis started this. They showed up in Charlottesville. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
They didn't put themselves down as neo, and you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Now, elsewhere in those remarks, the president did condemn neo-Nazis and white supremacists. So he's not saying that the neo-Nazis and white supremacists are very fine people, but he is saying people protesting alongside those neo-Nazis and white supremacists are very fine people.
Oh my gosh.
But what he was saying was people at the protesting the taking down of the the monuments, which I believe.
And here's the thing: there are a lot of people that condemn slavery and actually condemn, several generals and several people that are put up in monuments. Right? They condemn it, but the argument is they don't want that monument taken down because they don't want to whitewash the history. They don't want it to be erased. It's very important for us to remember what happened, remember the history, to understand it to its fullest. And so if you take an eraser and say, this person, these people were so bad, we have to erase it, okay, from history, then that leaves room for these people to rewrite history, which is what they have done and what they are trying to do, and they have been doing for the past 70 years, at least.
No, it's absolutely crazy. It's rewriting history, and we can talk about Robert E. Lee and the monuments all day long. Trump was asked to clarify his remarks from 2017, suggesting that they were very fine people on both sides in Charlottesville. He says, "I was talking about people that went because they felt very strongly about the monument to Robert E. Lee in general." Tim Young says, "So you're outraged about Trump defending protests of the removal of the Robert E. Lee statue, but have done nothing about the racist Virginia governor who wore blackface and a KKK robe." Okay, got it. Jesse Kelly says, "I see Robert E. Lee is getting dragged on Twitter by a bunch of mouth breathers who aren't fit to lick the soles of his boots. This modern trend of dragging great men in history using today's sensibilities is foul to me."
Wow.
Jack Posobiec says, "I see the left is opining about the morality of Southern General Robert E. Lee. Let's talk about the moral history of their icons, Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, and Margaret Sanger."
Well said.
Ha ha, the left has been giving Robert E. Lee more strife than blackface and or KKK hood wearing Ralph Northam. Newsflash, one Virginia Democrat has been gone for 150 years. The other Democrat is literally the sitting governor of Virginia.
Thank you.
So here's the picture we're talking about with the KKK, or he's wearing the blackface, I believe.
It doesn't matter which one is wearing,
Right. So, let's see. I'm going to play this here. Stephen Moore defending Robert E. Lee.
I heard this Washington Post reporter refer to Robert E. Lee as a terrorist. And I think that is so offensive. I've lived in Virginia for 30 years, so I'm from Chicago, but I kind of consider myself a Southerner now. And just to basically say that half the country, which fought for the South in the Civil War, was a gang of terrorists, I think is really truly rewriting history, and it's not salvaging the wound. It's making these things, I think, worse. I mean, Robert E. Lee hated slavery. He abhorred slavery, but he fought for his section of the country. Now that's a totally different subject. But let me say something.
But I can't let it slide. I can't let it slide. Robert E. Lee held slaves. He ordered the beating of slaves. He ordered the return of fugitive slaves, and he fought for the dissolution of the Union to maintain slavery. So his personal attitude towards slavery
was
aside,
not. It wasn't. The Civil War was about the South having its own rights. I mean, look, slavery was part of the Civil War, but it wasn't central to the Civil War. It was the South feeling like it was overwhelmed. By the way, it was the same way.
But again, the Civil War had the South won.
The history is important here.
I agree.
Is important here. I mean, this country was split apart. It was a big part of it, but it wasn't only that. It was, as Christine knows, it was a lot about economics, about tariffs and things like that. The South felt that it was being overwhelmed by the North in Congress, and it couldn't get its economic positions represented there.
So I want to just kind of give you guys an idea. I think it's something that we can talk about, but the rewriting of history and seeing history through the lens of modern times is never, ever a good idea.
Yeah.
You're going to talk about Genghis Khan. You're going to talk about Alexander the Great. You're going to talk about the Roman Empire. We talk about the Roman Empire all the time. Then they say, oh, our legislator was based on the Roman Empire and the Senate. And they talk about it in such a prideful, arrogant way. But you do know that Rome crucified people on crosses. That's why Jesus was crucified. That's why we have a cross. Not because the Jews were crucifying people, but because it was a Roman Empire thing. Right. It was the most brutal government it was one of the most brutal governments. Yes, we had rule of law, but how do you think the Roman Empire was created? Right.
Well,
going in and subduing and conquering and killing and making slaves.
I can't speak for General Robert E. Lee because I haven't done as extensive research on him as I have on our founding fathers. And so, but I can speak to our founding fathers who did hold slaves, okay? Because you need to understand that they existed during a time where laws were being written where it was illegal for you to free your slaves. This happened to George Washington. He was able to then free his slaves. And it happened to Thomas Jefferson.
Who could not free his slaves on death.
Who could not free his slaves. And they have you go to Monticello and you take the tour of Monticello, and the way that they have rewritten history is disgusting. One of my favorite books that I love to recommend is David Barton's Jefferson Lies.
Yeah.
If you want to know the truth about Sally Hemings, who was supposed his mistress was not, they have zero proof, and his lifestyle doesn't line up with it either. Okay, it was probably I think it was his cousin or brother or something like that, where the bloodline can be traced back to that. But my point is, when you look at somebody like Thomas Jefferson, who loved his slaves, who paid them when they caught fish for the fish that they caught, who paid them for the work that they did when they were living on Monticello, okay, that came up with work that they could do and gave them the very best life that you possibly could give. Anybody that wants to tout that they hate slavery, I want you to make sure that every component in your laptop, every component in your car, everything that you own or come across never comes from any country like China that treats their workers like slaves.
Taiwan.
Okay? Because if you can't do that, then you have no grounds to stand on to say they should have gotten rid of their slaves, because you don't understand the time and you don't understand the situation where the economy was tied in, it was linked hand in hand, because slaves were the industrial means that produced things. They had no machines.
We can talk about slavery all day long, but you get rid of all your machines and then talk to me about slavery.
Exactly.
Talk to me about slavery when you don't use a machine for anything.
Which I want to clarify something. We would love if you did that. We would love if we could do that. If that's your aim, if that is your desire, then you do have some ground to stand on, okay? But until you can understand that our founding fathers were, like Thomas Jefferson literally wrote into his first several drafts of the Declaration of Independence to abolish slavery.
He had to deal. Line up when you've done that.
He had to deal with other little states, little countries I like to call them, in the Republic that were not going to join up. We wouldn't have had a United States of America because they refused to allow that to be in there. But that doesn't mean that somebody like a Thomas Jefferson didn't abhor slavery and hated it.
He had come to Jesus moments where he was born in slavery. And he didn't know that black people could be educated.
Right.
He didn't know that they were smart, that they had intelligence, because their intelligence was kept under. And
I've got to be honest, I can understand that to a point, because if I go out to the country and I deal with some white people that were raised out in the country that seem a little bit ignorant, you do prejudicely, and I'm going to be honest, I do prejudicely kind of think to myself, they're a lesser intelligent person. They're born that way, but it's not true. It's the way that they were raised. And so if you can go out to the country and look at white people and say, oh, I can understand that person would have every, if they were given everything, then they could be as eloquent as, anybody else, and as smart and brain surgeon. And that is actual fact.
That is true.
It is true. But if you can honestly say that you don't have that prejudice when you hear from these people, okay, you're lying. Right. You're totally lying. And so you have to be able to understand where Thomas Jefferson was coming from. And it doesn't make you a racist. It makes you a realist.
Right. And he went on to say that slavery was a scourge of mankind.
Yeah.
And he and George Washington fought in Virginia to get the Virginia laws changed.
Right.
So they're heroes, by the way. Heroes.
Oh, I've answered that question, and if you look at what I said, you will see that question was answered perfectly. And I was talking about people that went because they felt very strongly about the monument to Robert E. Lee, a great general. Whether you like it or not, he was one of the great generals. I've spoken to many generals here, right at the White House, and many people thought of the generals. They think that he was maybe their favorite general. People were there protesting the taking down of the monument of Robert E. Lee. Everybody knows that.
And I believe, as we've talked about, that the neo-Nazi thing,
They were
Robert
plants.
Spencer was planted.
They were planted into the Charlottesville thing. Christy Lynn on Facebook Live says, I'm still trying to hear what the Dems' policies are besides hate Trump. That's all they have right now. That's all they can run on at all.
All right. So here we have a Joe Biden clip. And I said if Joe Biden keeps this up, it's going to make a really interesting race.
I'm a senior at the college, and I'm the vice president of the student body here.
You're not a bitch. I mean, no. Excuse me.
I'm not responsible for anything the vice president says.
Buy a shotgun.
I think the vice president very well knows that sometimes the words don't come out of your mouth the right way.
But I always say what I mean. But if I wanted to be president of the United States, I could be vice president. I never make any big gaps. I mean, you guys love saying that about me.
But often his handsiness and comments
No DC-30.
are likened to those of a crazy but lovable uncle. But as they veer toward the more bizarre variety, it's raising questions about appropriate behavior for someone eyeing the White House.
So earlier this week, Biden publicly used the term Shylocks in reference to aggressive money lenders. It's a word considered anti-Semitic, a reference to a ruthless Jewish lender in Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice.
In the first 100 days, he's going to let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
In Delaware, the largest growth in population is Indian Americans moving from India. You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking.
Once again, the curse of Biden strikes.
I've gotten to know you well enough. You want me to stop because I'm embarrassing you.
Pardon me?
Every 10 minutes there's a shift in sort of what the strategy is again.
Who gives a It's a large, very identifiable Somali community. There's an awful lot of driving cabs, and are friends of mine, for real. I'm not being solicitous. I'm being serious.
Only 15 Somalis live in the entire state, according to the Census Bureau. And Wilmington cab drivers told CNN they knew of no Somalis driving taxis.
The vice president called the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi today to clarify remarks he made last week during a forum at Harvard.
Our biggest problem is our allies. I said, Jill, if there's ever a problem, just walk out on the balcony here, or walk out, put that double-barrel shotgun, and fire 2 blasts outside the house. All this stuff about how different Barack Obama is. They're just not used to somebody really smart. They're just not used to somebody who's really well educated. They just don't know quite how to handle it. Because if he's as smart as Barack is, he mustn't be from my neighborhood. His mom lived in Long Island for 10 years or so. God rest her soul. And although your mom's still alive as your dad passed. God bless her soul. A man who will be the next president of the United States, Barack America.
Barack America.
Barack says the 3-letter word, jobs. J-O-B-S, jobs.
3-letter word, jobs.
To heed the timeless advice from Teddy Roosevelt. Speak softly and carry a big stick. End of quote.
Walk softly.
I promise you, the president has a big stick. Buy a shotgun. Buy a shotgun.
Wow. Let's walk softly.
Well, actually, I looked it up. Teddy Roosevelt did say speak softly.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then our grandpa's cousin made it into a walk softly and carry a big stick.
Okay. Oh my gosh. You know what? I'm really excited that Joe Biden has entered the race because it is going to make things very interesting. He doesn't have an original thought of his own.
No.
And they will pummel him in the debates. All of the socialist commies that will be speaking against him.
Unless they really...
They might fold.
Unless they do it on purpose.
Right. But
they'd have to...
Once Biden gets to debate Trump...
But you know what, guys?
It's going to be the most...
Here's the thing. When Kamala Harris...
Wonderful
is this close to the presidency, do you think she's going to step out of the way even though they tell her to?
Yeah, probably not.
When you're this close to being president of the United States, It's like when you're in a boxing match and they tell you got to take a hit and you got to fall for it.
Not gonna happen.
And you see that it's within your grasp.
Well, especially when you're standing next to Biden, because I mean,
so I really think that the Democrat strategy was to try to encourage as many people as they could.
Crazies,
diverse,
crazies,
as crazy as possible.
Yeah.
But once you have a taste and you're running for president,
and you lay in bed at night and you think to yourself, I could be president of the United States.
Right.
I could have all the power.
It gets to you. There's no way you're going to be able to bow out.
Yeah.
So this is Joe Biden's senior advisor. I don't know why they picked her, but it literally is. Just listen.
In my opinion, we don't need white people leading the Democratic Party right now. The Democratic Party is diverse, and it should be reflected as so in our leadership and through.
They picked her to be Biden's strategist, but she says that white people shouldn't lead the Democratic Party.
But
so shouldn't she be helping?
Right, in a sense,
shouldn't she be helping Kamala Harris or Cory Booker?
Yeah.
Or that Yang guy who's at least Asian.
Out the staff at the highest levels.
What do you say to the people who dragged a poor white guy out of a car and beat him?
Oh my goodness, poor white people! Please, oh my, stop. The folks calling for civility might need to check their privilege.
The folks calling for civility might need to check their privilege.
Because if you got privilege, we ain't got to be civil.
So this is time for our UK break, because I saw this Gimli here talking about Brexit.
Okay, his name is John Rhys Davies.
John Rhys Davies.
But you know him as Gimli from Lord of the Rings.
Lays into our political class for their mishandling of Brexit, and I will play this again on Sunday, but I want to play it for you guys here.
I think you should all be very concerned.
Oh, and by the way,
very concerned.
He just voiced in The Pilgrim's Progress as well.
Yeah, it was really great.
Mood of the...
Look at these people scowling.
The mood of the people that I have been talking to, and I'm not talking about hotheads or just loose talk in the pub. I'm talking about considered grown-ups who work for a living, think for a living, have had to make economic decisions for themselves. And I have never seen such a level of anger. I do believe that every member here entered politics in order to do the best for their people who elected them, for their constituencies. I stipulate that. But your primary objective is to preserve democracy. And what it seems to... And whatever you may feel, you have betrayed democracy.
Boy said it. He said it.
He can't even get the people to stop clapping to say. Even like the people who voted to stay, I think Remain are saying, I don't understand.
Although they do a really good job of getting some of the most like scowlish Remain people to sit in the audience at question time, by the way.
Right.
They do that so they can sit there.
So Alex Jones, I should play the clip. Jack Dorsey this week met with Donald Trump. We do not know exactly what they talked about. Those details have not been released.
We can kind of
But we think that maybe he went to grovel so that Twitter would not be regulated and the big techs would not be regulated. Alex Jones stood outside with a blowhorn and talked about tech censorship.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to play this clip because Jack Posobiec from One American News interviewed him.
His duty to do it. The question is, with the advisors around him, and I would ask you, what do you think the best course of action is to really start the investigation? Does it come out of the Justice Department? Does it come out of congressional hearings? If he waits another 6, 7, 8 months to kick this off, we'll be in election territory. It'll be forgotten. They're going to bring the rest of the stuff back. They're already doing it. So we need to totally prove this was a premeditated fraud.
You've been banned from the majority of social media. Do you think it's time for President Trump to do something about this? We saw a meeting with Jack Dorsey because going into the 2020 election, it seems that more and more high-profile Trump supporters keep being banned on social media.
That's why there has to be investigations and prosecutions, because I am still being destroyed by this. This is how they began the deplatforming, saying we have to defeat the Republicans in 2018, 2020. We're going to censor them. We're not going to let this happen again. As soon as Hillary lost, Twitter, and their own documents came out, shadow banned. And that doesn't mean that they dial back the number of followers necessarily.
It's the engagement. It's the engagement level.
Yes, exactly. They don't let you reach them. When you have the big...
I know. I feel it all the time. I feel like it literally isn't. It's like it's like being on Twitter. Since I just joined after the election, in the very beginning, I got like 1,500 followers within the first few months, and then like just like 1 or 2 a day, 5 a day every once in a while.
Well, the same thing's happening
and then
on
they take
YouTube
away.
and Facebook.
And so it literally, you get on Twitter and you have no followers in the very beginning, and you can hashtag something and a bunch of people see it. I got engagement from strangers.
Yeah.
Okay? When you're not getting engagement from strangers with the hashtag, then you're being shadow banned.
Exactly.
And there's no way to figure that out, and there's no way to look at the algorithm. But it does feel like you go into a room and you're yelling, and you're saying, "Hi guys, how you doing?" And your voice is literally gone. It's like one of those nightmares when you wake up and you're just trying to say,
I hate that. Right, yeah.
And like everybody's like going on their business because they literally can't hear you. And I've noticed that recently I've stumbled on a couple hashtags and a couple
you're able to beat the algorithm for a second.
For 1 second, and I realized where my engagement should be. I almost got 200 likes on something and 60 retweets on something, and that is where my level of engagement should be. The Resistance Chicks, literally when we started, I felt like we were running, and it was great. And then all of a sudden, the YouTube hits us with the demonetization, and the YouTube finds out that we're right as Stalin, and they scale us back. Well, we used to get all kinds of trolls. When you don't have trolls,
exactly.
I like trolls. Trolls
That's what
mean
I was getting at, yeah.
that you're being seen and you're being put in the live stream so that random people can find you.
Well, and so when it comes to somebody like Alex Jones, whether you hate him or whether you love him or whether you're somewhere in the middle, they have hit Alex Jones with lie after lie after lie. They have besmirched his character. They have drug him through the mud. Alex Jones can handle that all day long, and he will still grow. You know why? Because most of what he is saying is 100% truth, and it's contagious truth. And people love it, and they go to it, and they seek it, and they want it, and they crave it. What Alex Jones can hardly trudge through, he's doing it, and what we can hardly trudge through is the censorship. And so it wasn't enough for them. They tried to besmirch him. They tried to smear his, they tried to put it everywhere that Alex Jones was just some crazy person, and it wasn't enough, and it didn't work. And so then that's when they had to take it to the next level. The same thing goes for Resistance Chicks or anybody out there that is putting out truth. They can drag us through the mud. They can say bad things. They can send trolls all day long, but it doesn't work because the people that hear the truth will keep coming back for it. So they had to take it to the next level and say, listen, we're just going to make it so that nobody can hear what you have to say.
This is Antonia Okafor. She is an NRA spokeswoman. Yesterday, she tweeted out that her entire channel was demonetized and deplatformed.
Wow.
And her super chat was taken away.
Oh my gosh.
Well, everybody, she has some contacts. And so Breitbart wrote an article about her.
Good.
And I believe Donald Trump Jr. might have tweeted out. And finally, she says, YouTube tells Breitbart that Antonia was incorrectly removed from the platform's partner program. The company's initial email announcing her demonetization said, our team of policy specialists carefully looked over your videos you have uploaded.
Wow.
And so these mistakes are dialed back when you have a loud enough voice. And when you don't have a loud enough voice, that's the end of that.
Right.
So let me finish this interview here with
Alex Jones.
Social media tech company came out shadow banned. And that doesn't mean that they dial back the number of followers necessarily.
It's the engagement. It's the engagement level.
Yes, exactly. They don't let you reach them. When you have the big four social media tech companies, Apple, Google, Twitter, and Facebook, admittedly meeting and deciding how to coordinate, well, now they're an oligopoly. Now they're a bunch of monopolies working together as a cartel.
Right.
To go out and block the will of the people and censor and govern and basically dial back people being able to communicate with each other. So just like the president is only allowed for his tweets, because even back when I was still on Twitter, I wouldn't get his tweets. My wife wouldn't get his tweets. Most of my office wouldn't get his tweets. We would have to go to his Twitter page there we would find them. We would actively seek it out, kind of like his Twitter page is just a website.
Hundreds of thousands of millions of tweets are coming out at every second, right? That's like a stack of papers being handed to you. But if you're following somebody, then those tweets should rise to the top of it. But what they're doing is they're down stacking. And the down stacking means they're taking his tweet and they're sticking at the bottom of the stack.
Yes.
So you're getting all these other tweets first before the person that you're supposed to get.
And they also put negative tweets on top.
Yep. So I just kind of wanted you guys to know what was going on there. I'm hoping that Donald Trump does step in. He has a Mueller report off of his shoulders, and I think that now he can begin to do some more. He was at the NRA today, and so I'm going to play this clip here. He says, "Thank you, NRA."
Indiana, with the men and women of the NRA, you are great American patriots. Together we are fighting for the timeless values that have built and sustained our nation. We believe in the rule of law, and we will always protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. We believe in the wisdom of our founders, and we believe in freedom and liberty and the right to keep and bear arms. Every day of my administration, we are taking power out of Washington, D.C., and returning it to the American people where it belongs. It is an honor to fight by your side, and it's an honor to be with everyone in this giant hall today. I will never, ever let you down.
Okay, how about you help us out with some...
So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of facts just from our own personal channel. Now, before we started being censored, we were gaining roughly 75 to 100 viewers a day. And that's how we got to over 10,000
in 6 months.
subscribers. Yeah, it was very, very rapid. But okay, so I pulled up our analytics page here. And it says within the last 28 days, we gained 97 subscribers. That's fine. I don't care one way or the other about how many subscribers we're gaining. That's not the issue. It says that we gained 97, but we lost 69. Now, I'm curious, and I would like to see from you guys here in the chat, how many times you personally get tired of a channel and deliberately go and unsubscribe from that channel.
You have to go to the channel to unsubscribe from it.
I don't think I ever unsubscribe from a channel.
I've never unsubscribed from a channel.
I don't care. It can just sit there. If I don't want to watch their stuff anymore, I don't want to watch it. I'm just curious how many of you guys deliberately say, you know what? Because it would have to be a significant amount of people that deliberately go and say, you know what? I'm sick of hearing, I've never watched those Resistance chicks, or I don't agree with what they said, and so I'm going to go to their channel. 69 people deliberately coming to our channel, clicking the unsubscribe button in 28 days.
No, what I think it is random people. I think it's YouTube looks at and says to this person, let's say they haven't watched you in 30 days.
Right.
Well, I'm going to sneakily unsubscribe, and then you're going to forget that you subscribed, and you're never going to go back. They are so sneaky.
Right.
They're so
Scotty
sneaky.
says, no, you're being unsubscribed automatically. People have already proved it. Yes, they have, but I just wanted to make a point here.
Yeah. I have gone and resubscribed to places.
I find that I go to a channel, and I'm like, wait a minute, I subscribed to that channel, and then I resubscribe.
Right.
But you have to actually be on that channel, which doesn't happen very often. Because most of the time, if it comes up in your recommended list,
a lot of channels' names.
Yeah.
I just remember the characters behind them.
Exactly.
So here's another clip today.
Go by.
Right.
No matter how much the world changes, the central drama of human history remains the same. On one side are those who seek power.
Gonna have to make him small.
Control.
Come back, buddy.
There are patriots like those in this hall who stand upright and plant their feet in eternal defense of our liberty. And with God as our witness, we swear today that we will defend our rights, we will safeguard our freedoms, we will uphold our heritage, we will protect our Constitution, and we will make America stronger, prouder, safer, and greater than ever, ever, ever before.
The more evers you say, the more the more it says it. So Maia says that she does unsubscribe from channels.
Okay.
Let's see. Bill Burnett on Facebook says, I will never unsubscribe from you ladies. Thank you, Bill. Happy birthday, Bill. It's Bill's birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday, Bill.
I hope it's been a blessed one so far. Bill is a great support. When I do my Bible studies or different videos, he always is sure to send me an email boosting my self-esteem and confidence. So thank you for that. Thomas Odom says, you ladies always pop up on my feed on Facebook. I'm glad to hear that. Jim West says, why would anyone subscribe in the first place and then cancel? They know what they are getting. Wicked Psych says, I have wicked old subscriptions that are still there. So Stephen says, I unsubscribed. I became Catholic more and more, to be honest. I switched to Jesse Lee Peterson, looking for inspiration among heretics. There is so much to learn from you to the Holy Church. So I can understand that if we put out something that you don't agree with and then you decide, all right, resistance chicks aren't for me, I don't want to see that in my feed. But I don't think that happens often enough because we don't have that many people watching. You know what I mean? You would have that part of the decision of, I don't really care for you guys very much. You know, you would have to be watching us to
we're not the only ones. Dave Rubin talks about having people subscribe and unsubscribe.
Exactly.
I think the idea is that for every one person that subscribes, YouTube takes like 75% of a person away.
Exactly.
So it looks like you're still gaining, but they just have to, okay, well, we're going to randomly take away, and there's computer algorithms for that.
Right.
Trump promises to declassify the Obama spying documents. So we'll see. They've been calling for this for a long time.
One last question. Will you declassify the FISA applications, Gang of 8 material, those 302s, or what we call on this program the bucket of 5?
Yes, everything is going to be declassified, and more, much more than what you just mentioned. It'll all be declassified, and I'm glad I waited because I thought that maybe they would obstruct if I did it early, and I think I was right. So I'm glad I waited, and now the Attorney General can take a very strong look at whatever it is, but it will be declassified and more than what you just mentioned.
Wow. Mr. President, we're now in the election season, and Joe Biden made his big...
Oh my gosh, it's so fantastic.
So last September, Trump ordered the declassification of documents such as the surveillance warrant application obtained by the Justice Department to spy on his campaign and notes of the FBI interviews with DOJ official Bruce Orr. He then rescinded the order 4 days later. Everything's going to be declassified and much more, we just heard him say. Orr was the Justice Department's liaison with Christopher Steele, the former MI6 officer who compiled the anti-Trump dossier funded by the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democrat National Committee. The dossier of unverified information based on Russian sources was used as a primary evidence to obtain the warrants to surveil the Trump campaign. The Mueller report, which concluded that Trump campaign did not collude with Russia in 2016 election, debunked key claims of the dossier. So a bombshell report is coming. WND reported former U.S. Attorney Joseph De Genova said Wednesday that while Washington is anticipating Inspector General Michael Horowitz's report on the FISA court abuse by the Obama administration, a lesser-known report centering on former FBI Director James Comey will be released soon, along with criminal referrals.
Whoa.
The Comey report will be a bombshell, he said on Laura Ingraham.
I hope so many people go to jail.
Whitewater Independent Counsel. Joe, let me start with you. Bob Woodward, who's no Trump fan for sure, and certainly not a card-carrying member of the Republican National Committee, basically was saying this was the work of John Brennan.
Well, there's no doubt this is pretty simple stuff for career prosecutors like Rudy and myself. It has been evident from day one that there was a brazen plot to exonerate Hillary Clinton illegally, and then if she lost the election, to frame Donald Trump. This dossier was a knowing part of that. It was created by Hillary Clinton. It was created knowingly by John Brennan as part of a scheme to do everything they could to harm Donald Trump. The problem for Brennan and Clapper and Comey and Baker and all of them now is that the FISA court has already communicated with the Justice Department about its findings. And their findings are that for more than 4 years before the election of Donald Trump, there was an illegal spying operation going on by FBI contractors, 4 of them, to steal personal information, electronic information about Americans, and to use it against the Republican Party. There are going to be indictments. There's going to be grand juries. John Brennan isn't going to need one lawyer. he's going to need 5.
Robert Bray, let me bring you in on this because you've also served. Why does this matter to the average American sitting at home with a bowl of popcorn and a soft drink? Why does it matter to them what happens in this entire investigation?
Because it's about the rule of law and privacy. The Obama administration, for more than 4 years before the 2016 election, allowed 4 contractors working for the FBI to illegally surveil American citizens illegally. The FISA court has already found that. By the way, Robert Ray mentioned that there is the Horowitz report coming out in May or possibly early June. There's another report that everybody has forgotten about involving James Comey alone. That will be out in 2 weeks. That report is going to be a bombshell. It's going to open up the investigation on a very high note, and there will be criminal referrals in it.
Wow.
The FISA court abuse is the center of this entire abuse of governmental power. And the chief judge of that court has already ruled that the FBI broke the law and that the people at the head of the Justice Department, Sally Yates, John Carlin, the Assistant Attorney General for the National Security, all knew about it and lied to the court, the FISA court, about it.
Robert, if you were advising Jim Comey, Sally, Joe, very quickly, if you've got a word you want to add.
There's a hero in this entire story, and it's not a lawyer. All the bad people in this story are lawyers. There's a hero. His name is Admiral Mike Rodgers. He was the head of the National Security Agency. He discovered the illegal spying. He went personally to the FISA court and briefed the chief judge and worked with her for months to uncover the people who did it. The FISA court has already been told and has already told the Justice Department who lied to that court, and that has been given to Bill Barr already.
Whoa!
Very powerful. Let me add something. You know, if we ask this question, what does it matter to the person at home? If the highest levels of government can trample the constitutional rights and the Constitution that through which we elect a president and step all over an elected president, imagine what it can do to you. Or
so you saw me. I couldn't help myself because it's called the Happy Dance. Guys, for so many years, it seems like it's gone on for like 20 years. We've been, the only reason that any of this stuff is happening to you and I and the censorship and the information is because Donald Trump wasn't allowed to stay ahead of the game because he was just trying to stay above water. How can he go and rescue other people if he's drowning himself? And whether you know it or not, Donald Trump was literally waterboarded for 2 years. Yeah. Every time and the fact that he is thriving, the fact that he's still alive, and the fact that he's still president shows the prayers are working. Yeah. That Donald Trump is just merely a face for the changing of this country. And as Joe Biden is literally the devil saying that if Donald Trump is elected again, the country will never be the same again, and that is absolutely true. And he has said that Donald Trump has changed the face of this country. Donald Trump has not changed the course of this country. You and I, and our prayers, and our Donald Trump is you and I. Without you and I, there'd be no Donald Trump. Donald Trump thrives.
I think the proper English there is you and me.
Without me, without I, whatever. Yeah. Without you and me. Without you and me, Donald Trump wouldn't exist. He thrives off of having a team behind him and with him.
So I want to address this interview that you just showed here because
I love Genova.
We need to take a kind of time warp trip back in history. Okay, and we're gonna go back to right after 9/11 when George W. Bush decided that the Patriot Act was the way that we were going to stop terrorism. And all of the Republicans and Democrats as well decided to hand over all of our freedom and said, okay, President Bush, you can do whatever you want. You can spy on me. I don't have anything to hide as long as it'll help us stop terrorism. And that's what happened. It was actually illegal what they decided to do. The Patriot Act was unconstitutional, okay? You can't just vote to all of a sudden spy on any American that you want. And so what happened was these corrupt, unelected agencies, the FBI, the CIA, got a taste for corruption. They got a taste for blood, for spying on people, for doing things through the back door, for taking advantage of taking their position and taking it to the nth degree. All right. And so they continued it and they continued it and they continued it. Like a murderer or a rapist that gets a taste for blood, and they have to keep going back for more. And you get cocky, you get arrogant, and then you get caught. And that's what happened with the spying on President Trump. And it all started back with George W. Bush and those of us that were Republicans that decided, you know what? The Patriot Act, I'm all for it. We have to repent as an American people and say, you know what? I was wrong. I was duped. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Shame.
We were fooled, and we have to say, you know what? President Bush is equal, and his father are equal in being part of the
warmongers
elite group. They are the same as the Clinton cartel. They are the same as the Obama cartel. They're all the same group. And the good news is it's turning around. And so he was asking the question: why is it important to the American person that's at home eating popcorn, drinking a soda, watching this play forth? Because our rights were trampled upon. Your privacy was invaded. And now we're going to backtrack and we're going to get back to some semblance of, you know what? If we can't take down the FBI and the CIA today, at least we need to restrict their movements.
So this is new news coming out. The NSA has recommended to the White House that it not seek the renewal of the Snowden exposed domestic phone metadata program.
Wow.
Amid a growing belief the one secret spying tool is not worth keeping.
Wow.
The White House has yet to adopt a policy position.
Interesting.
So I wanted to put that out there. Snowden has been tweeting out. Edward Snowden, the NSA has been spying on everything you do. It has scans of your face, vocal patterns, and typing patterns. It also knows your location at all times. People a few years later, when the government is using their scanned faces, he says this is only... this is only the beginning, he says. His tweet is unavailable. I saw this earlier. But anyways...
the tweet is unavailable.
Yeah, he was tweeting this out.
And so you tie that in by, listen, how do they surveil?
Mm-hmm.
Snowden is the one that exposed the fact that they had the technology and they were using it.
To spy on all of us.
Yeah.
They were just taking all our data.
Right.
All of our data. Now... Corps of Engineers are told to build another 53 miles of wall. 50 miles at a time. We could actually get somewhere. President Donald Trump has wanted to build walls on the border with Mexico to improve the U.S. Security since his campaigning for the Oval Office. Since he was campaigning, Democrats have been adamant that if they can, they will deprive him of that benefit for America. Their unwillingness to compromise was what triggered a government shutdown last winter and what triggered Trump to declare a national emergency. Now the Washington Examiner is revealing the Department of Homeland Security has issued 2 more waivers just this week, letting the Army Corps of Engineers bypass environmental laws and start nearly $1 billion project.
That's interesting.
It will replace about 50 miles of border fence in Texas and Arizona in regions where illegal activity is high. The department announced Friday the new construction projects will go up near El Paso, Texas, and Yuma, Arizona. 2 weeks ago, the Army Corps was awarded the SCO $789 million for the El Paso project, and the Bernard construction $187 million for the El Paso operation.
For those of you that are unaware, what's happening is the people that are on the ground, the people that are doing the work, are making these requests. Mm-hmm. This is where we need this. Mm-hmm. And so you have to listen to the people that are making the requests, that are down there doing the work. These Democrats all over the country, when they go down to the wall, you see them like, listen, you know, there's no activity here where this massive wall is. We don't need this wall. Well, there's no activity there because that's where the wall is.
But would they have like this little like cattle hurdles? People just walk right over.
Yeah, and that's where
and ranchers are like, hello, people come through my backyard all day, every day.
These people are putting their lives on the line. Okay, the activity that is happening is not the poor, downtrodden family in, South America coming forward and just wanting to make a new life. There is some of that for sure. Mm-hmm. Still doesn't make it right, but that happens. Mostly what we're seeing are these drugs and gang members and weapons coming across the country. And so we have this double standard of hypocrisy where the Democrats are saying, we don't want guns. We want to, strip the rights of owning, firearms away from all Americans. But we're totally okay with the people from South America bringing gun running and sex trafficking and everything across the border.
Speaking of that, there's an article in our local newspaper today about, and I don't even know what African nation it was. It's something I can't pronounce.
There's a lot of Africa.
9,000 members of a certain African region in our country. And the article in our city, in Cincinnati, and they're having a big get together. Now the article paints it as like Donald Trump is cracking down on people because he is wanting to send a lot of these people home because ICE has detainers out for them because, get this, they overstayed their visas. Now get this, every time a Democrat gets on and says we don't need a border wall, they say because only a third of the illegal aliens here are crossing over the border, 2/3 are here because of visa overstays, but they don't want to deport anybody with a visa overstay.
So if you go to another country, like let's just say we go and visit the UK and we get a visa to be there, and then we overstay that visa, do you think they're just going to let us live there and just stay there inevitably?
No, but I wanted you to see this logic that goes around in a circle, the circular logic, saying they don't want you to deport the 2/3 that are here with visa overstays.
Right.
But at the same time, the wall for the 1/3 coming over illegally isn't going to stop the 2/3 coming. It literally is this weird circle. What they're actually saying is we want no wall. We want everybody in here 100%.
Yeah.
But through their mouth they say, but it's not going to stop the illegal immigration anyways.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to stop the illegal immigration. But there is a New York Times journalist who says that I am as pro-immigration as they come, and yet it's pretty clear to me that we need a wall.
Surprise.
Let's talk about another important issue, border security. You did a lot of reporting. You went to the U.S.-Mexico border. You've written a very powerful article. I recommend our viewers go to the New York Times and read it. Among other things, you write this line, I'll quote, "The whole day left me more certain than ever that we have a real immigration crisis and that the solution is a high wall with a big gate, but a smart gate."
Shocking.
So you're talking about a wall. You want a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border, a high wall with what you call a smart gate.
A big gate, a smart gate, and a compassionate gate, I said. Wolf, I'm as radically pro-immigration as they come. But it's pretty clear to me that unless we can assure a significant number of Americans that we can control our border, we're never going to have the proper immigration flow I think we need, we desire, and that we have actually a moral responsibility, given our history as a nation of immigrants and a refuge for people fleeing persecution. I think the only way is a compromise on this. The tragedy, and that's why my column was said Trump is wasting this crisis. A crisis is a terrible thing to waste. We have a president. Actually, when you think about it, Wolf, he has the chops with his base. If he were to sit down, call Nancy Pelosi up, say, we're going up to Camp David, you bring your immigration team, I'll bring mine, I'll leave Stephen Miller at home, and we will actually sort out a compromise here, because Democrats were ready to fund more border security, but at the same time, we're going to create a legal pathway for people here, we're going to limit the number of ICE arrests, and we're going to have a rational inflow of people, of the kind of people that are both high energy, high IQ, that can actually drive our country forward. We need a compromise.
When you say, though, you want a high wall with a big gate,
yes,
a smart gate, but a high wall, that's going to sound to a lot of folks out there, that's what Donald Trump wants.
Well, I think you've got to control the border. When you have an increase of illegal apprehensions of illegal entries of 374% since October, obviously you've got a situation where the border security is not sufficient, and that's going to drive people who we should want to be pro-immigration against immigration. Democrats have been willing to fund more border security, okay? I'm for a high wall with a big gate, a compassionate, a smart gate, so we can keep immigration going, but you're not going to do that, Wolf, if people think people can just walk into this country. They're not going to support the immigration that we need.
Wow, that was so well said. And I want you guys to recognize something as he's speaking, that he is actually kind of a sound-minded person, realizing that if we want to coexist and come up with some sort of compromise with people like Trump's base, then we have to be willing to come to some sort of middle. And I'll be honest, I would venture to say that most Republicans would say, you know what, I could see that compromise, because if we have a big giant wall that can keep out the sex trafficking, that can keep out the drug runners, that can keep out the gun runners, that can keep out the gangs, okay, you might get some Republicans on your side to say, all right, I'm a bleeding heart Republican. I love our country. I want people to be able to enjoy our country just so long as we can keep out the drugs, we can keep out the sex trafficking, we can keep out the gun running and the gangs. Then that would be half the battle. Okay? So the fact that Democrats can't meet in the middle where this guy is goes to prove their insanity, that they don't care.
Democrats that you meet on the street probably can. Your friends that we work with.
Yeah.
Just
they would be able to say, yeah, I guess I could see that. Let's have a big giant gate and a compassionate gate where most people get through, right? So if they want to come and work in America and send their money back to their family, that's fine. So long as we can keep out the drugs and all the other unwanteds, the bad things. But but the Nancy Pelosi won't meet you there. Okay, so while you're talking about immigration, let's read this article from Fox News earlier that said more than 1,000 Cuban migrants, they broke out of a Mexican immigration facility. Hundreds of Cuban migrants are reported to be on the run Friday in Mexico after a crowd of more than 1,000 burst out of troubled immigration detention center on its southern border. Mexico's National Immigration Institute said the mass escape Thursday in Tapachula, which the Associated Press called the largest in recent memory, involved around 1,300 Cuban migrants, although 700 of them have since returned voluntarily. I wonder, there's nowhere to go. The migrants reportedly streamed out of the compound without any resistance, as the Institute said its agents weren't armed and there was no confrontation. That's very interesting to me. Federal police with riot shields later rushed in to control the situation as a crowd of angry Cubans whose relatives were being held at the facility gathered outside. The Cubans claimed their relatives reported overcrowding and unsanitary conditions at the facility. My wife and child have been in there for 27 days in bad conditions, said Yusmoni Velasquez Vallejo. As he waited outside for hours, there is overcrowding, insufficient food, and there isn't even medicine for them. Another Cuban detainee told the AFP, we have many there. We are very tight. We sleep on the floor. It's the third time since October that migrants at the facility staged an uprising, according to the news agency. The center's holding capacity is officially listed at less than 1,000 people, but the escape of 1,300 meant it was probably at least at double its capacity, since not everyone being held there escaped. Residents in the area said that sometimes the facility has held as many as 3,000 people, and a Mexican newspaper cited Rodgers saying Haitians and Central Americans are also among the large group who still have not been tracked down. That's like insanity.
It is insane.
If you're going to detain these people, you do need to have at least humane conditions, and if you don't, you're going to end up with an uprising. That just makes sense.
Right. So speaking of ICE, you guys remember this Massachusetts judge? Look, she's crying here. Oh my gosh, bleeding heart. She helped an illegal immigrant escape
out the back door.
Arrest, indicted, and federal authorities are saying.
Oh my gosh.
I had wondered what would happen to her, but like seeing some indictments come down is just finally, hey, pretty crazy though. That's not what we want to watch.
So actually, speaking of that guy, and talking about indictments, I don't think that we have all the information about this truck driver from this crash in Colorado. I think you never know. It could be more nefarious. It could be an illegal immigrant. You don't know. That being said, I think that, for me personally, there needs to be a discussion, even though we talk about every time you get behind a wheel, there is, you're holding a loaded weapon. I think in this case, complete aside, in situations where people go to jail for the rest of their lives because of a car wreck, I think that there should be repercussions because your irresponsibility cost a life, but it still does sort of fall in the category of an accident. And so I think there should be some lenience. It wasn't willful murder,
Exactly. We'll see.
Involuntary manslaughter.
Okay. So here's
And a former court officer. They're accused of allegedly helping an undocumented federal grand jury how it issued a blockbuster indictment of a Massachusetts judge and a former court officer. They're accused of allegedly helping an undocumented immigrant evade arrest by an immigration and customs enforcement agent. The high-profile case, a showdown between both federal law and a sanctuary city. Here's ABC's Gio Benitez.
Today, Judge Shelley Joseph finding herself on the other side of the bench after prosecutors say she helped an undocumented immigrant slip out the back door of her Newton, Massachusetts courthouse to avoid an ICE officer. Judge Joseph can be heard in a courtroom recording obtained by the Boston Globe.
As if you need more time to figure this out, ultimate Judge Maia.
Talking with attorneys about whether that suspect was the right man ICE was looking for.
President, what if we continue?
Larry, can you go off the record for a moment?
Judge Joseph ordered the court clerk to turn off the recording device.
Prosecutors say the judge then conspired to release the suspect out the back door while that ICE officer was told to wait in the courthouse lobby. And Tom, tonight the judge and the court officer face obstruction of justice charges. The judge has been suspended, and now that undocumented immigrant is in deportation hearings. Tom.
Gio Benitez for us. Gio, thank you.
You know, here's the deal. Judges have way more power than they should.
Absolutely.
We were just talking yesterday about the guy that my mom was watching who kind of said, listen, if you want to, if they're coming after your kids because you don't vaccinate or whatever, and they want to take your kids away, you actually should request a hearing by your peers, a jury hearing, okay, where these judges aren't allowed to make these life and death decisions for you. That being said, she has a lot of power. So the fact that she couldn't sway that power to get this person off, again, we're talking about kind of this this rogue mentality that gets inside of you of, I have all this power, you're above the law, and that's what gives her. And it wasn't that. But
here's the thing:
if she hadn't had that power, she probably wouldn't have. She thought these people think they're above the law. They think they're never going to get caught.
But it would be one thing if maybe the guy was just caught for just overstaying a visa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a sane person. Like, I can kind of see that, right?
Yeah.
But he was a fugitive. He had a fugitive warrant for drunk driving, been deported twice, and he was being arraigned on drug charges. You don't put your career and your life on the line for a criminal.
Yeah.
Drug charges, drunken driving, deported twice.
Drugs. Really? I mean, seriously. And she's crying. Yeah, these people, that's what I'm saying. They get drunk on power, and it causes them not to think clearly. Because any sound-minded person, I got to tell you something. If I'm a judge, I'm not laying my career or my possibility of going to jail for some person, okay? Listen, that's the law is the law, and what happened to you happened to you. That's why I'm not a judge, actually, because I really do feel for people. And I actually, my mom always says, if you end up on a jury, then you're just not smart. Okay, because I don't ever want to have to convict somebody. I don't ever want to be on a jury.
Right.
Okay, so these people, you asked for this.
Right.
You asked for that weightiness of, you know what? If I have to witness somebody that I feel is being wrongfully convicted, this is my position. There's nothing I can do about it. You waive that when you choose to be a judge.
Right. It looks like McGregor.
You have to let justice play out.
Used his security access card to escort him out of the courthouse without being seen by the ICE agent, and the ICE agent just waited in the lobby.
I guarantee you these people never thought that they would get caught. And if they did get caught, they didn't think they would get punished.
Yeah, but Medina Perez's freedom was short-lived. He was arrested a month later after the court hearing and again let go, this time by an immigration judge who freed him on bond. The Boston Globe reported this case is currently pending. The 38-year-old native of the Dominican Republic had previously been deported in 2003 and 2007.
Right.
And he has a different name. His real name is Oscar Manuel Perguero, and he has several aliases.
Belinda says that she broke the law. She needs to stand down from her job and be sent to prison.
Right. Yeah.
Robert Bone was talking about how, when we were talking about, this involuntary manslaughter type thing, I think that's what you're referring to. And he says a 20-year moratorium would work, of sorts. I think that our justice system does need to be revamped because there are people that go to jail for the rest of their lives for a drug charge, and the molesters get off scot-free practically. Yeah. They're allowed back into society.
So a couple things, a couple more news stories I want to bring to you guys. One is that Vice President Pence had a senior advisor, chief of staff actually.
This is great.
Whose wife was working for the FBI and actually working for Peter Strzok And while she recused herself from the Hillary Clinton investigation when her husband got the job with Vice President Pence, and recused herself from working under Strzok.
Right.
It is unknown whether she continued to work as a liaison and as a spy, because FBI texts show the agents are discussed recruiting White House sources to spy for the FBI. So you've got the FBI agent whose husband works for Peter Strzok, and you think that he's not spying. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Senior Republican chairman submitted a letter Thursday to the Department of Justice Attorney General William Barr revealing new texts from the former FBI Special Agent Peter Strzok to his paramour FBI attorney Lisa Page, showing the pair had discussed attempts to recruit sources within the White House to allegedly spy on the Trump administration. It has come out that the Trump administration has been doing a lot of sweeps for electronic devices in the White House. Senate Appropriations Committee Chairman Charles Grassley and Chairman Ron Johnson revealed the information in a 3-page letter. The text had been obtained by Sarah Carter Tuesday, and information regarding the possible attempt to recruit White House sources had been divulged by several sources to news sites last week. The text and sources reveal that Strzok had one significant contact within the White House, Vice President Mike Pence's Chief of Staff Joshua Pitcock, whose wife was working as an analyst for Strzok on the FBI's investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of a private server. A senior White House official told this news site that Pitcock's wife recused herself from the Clinton investigation as soon as Pence and Trump became the Republican nominees in July 2016. A senior law enforcement official also told Sarah Carter that Pitcock's wife no longer worked for Strzok after she recused herself from the Clinton investigation. However, the text messages uncovered from November 2016 have left questions lingering about the relationship between Strzok, Pitcock, and his wife among congressional investigators and lawmakers. The course of our oversight work, we have reviewed certain text messages that may show potential attempts by the FBI to conduct surveillance of President-elect Trump's transition team in text messages exchanged between former FBI agent Peter Strzok and Lisa Page to discuss the possibility of developing potential relationships at a November 2016 FBI briefing for presidential transition team staff. Specifically, it appears they discussed sending the CI guy to assess an unnamed person's demeanor, but were concerned because it might be unusual for him to attend. The senators are investigating if any of these communications and the precise purpose of any attempts to develop relationships with Trump or the VP Mike Pence transition team staff are not immediately clear. Were these efforts done to gain better communication between the respective parties, or were the briefings used as intelligence gathering operations? Further, did any such surveillance activities continue beyond the inauguration? And in any event they did, were those activities subject to the proper predication? So here's the text are here. So I don't feel like we need to. I guess we go over them.
They're just talking about recruiting people as spies within the Trump administration.
Exactly. So there was one major connection to the White House we talked about. Let's see. According to documents, the White House sources and the FBI, one of the FBI's top counterintelligence analysts who was personally working for FBI Strzok had a spouse working for VP Pence. The White House and the FBI told this news site that she had recruited. Oh yeah, we went over that. Sorry.
No, so as you're reading this is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So we all know that with our electronic devices, we could be spied on at any moment. We know that Google listens to us, and we know that Facebook and all these places put ads out so that we can see them. So we know that we're being spied on. Most of us don't worry about it that much. I personally think to myself, well, anybody that's listening doesn't know me personally, and so I don't really care. If it was somebody that I know personally, like, you know, an acquaintance that I may have said something about, you know, the way I feel about that person, and it may not be that awesome, I wouldn't want them to hear that, okay? But other than that, if it's somebody that doesn't know me, I don't care. Imagine being in the White House. And people know who you are. Imagine being President Trump or Pence or whoever, you name it. Okay, even Melania, knowing that every single thing that you say, possibly spying on you when you're getting undressed or going to the bathroom or whatever, all of this is happening, knowing that all that is happening and still trudging forward, trying to make America great again. I applaud these people. It blows my mind that they could keep going. I would be so paranoid all of the time. You know, it would be very difficult to move forward thinking to yourself that every word that I'm saying is being recorded or listened to by somebody, every face that I'm making, you know, whatever, It's very disconcerting.
Well, we know that there was a lot of leaks in the beginning. We don't know where they came from.
Right.
We do know that Trump announced Pence's pick on July 15, 2016. They officially became nominees on July 21st, 2016 at the Republican convention. This means that Catherine, the Peacock's wife, was working on the Russia investigation with Strzok prior to that time frame. And Strzok's direct involvement in actions during that investigation will more than likely lead to criminal charges, a source told Sarah Carter News.
So I think that it makes total sense for her to recuse herself, because if you're in a situation, see, I always say, if you tell the truth to somebody and it seems totally far-fetched, then they won't believe you. Like, and so it's better sometimes to say, like, yes, I do work for an alien agency, if you really do, and they won't believe you because it's so far-fetched, or yes, I'm an angel, and they won't believe you. This person recuses herself, okay, thinking if I just kind of say, listen, there's nothing wrong here, meanwhile, I'm spying. Okay.
So here's another big tidbit. I have prayed from the moment I heard about Flynn. I knew he was innocent. It was in my gut. Yeah. I knew he was right on. And I knew something was up. Now, here's a former intelligence official speaking to WND, or Sarah Carter, says, my concern about this is the potential for information to flow from her to her husband to spin any information that the VP may or may not have heard during that time frame. The former intelligence source said the connection raises questions regarding information that may have moved from the FBI into the vice president's orbit regarding former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn. Wow. We know all of a sudden the VP, Pence, was the one who went to Flynn and said, you need to step down now. You need to step down now. Did you lie to us? Yeah. How did he know about that?
Yeah.
We know
his chief of staff.
The FBI had it in for Flynn because they knew that he had the dirt on Obama and Clinton, and they knew that he would pull out of Syria.
Guys.
So this woman, I'm guessing, Strzok went to this woman went to her husband to VP Pence. Pence goes straight to him. Yeah. Very beginning. Wasn't Donald Trump. It was Vice President Pence, because this guy had an ear. And I'm hoping that VP Pence comes out and says, holy cow, I listened to you.
I was bamboozled.
I was being used. But you can't say that to the entire nation. You know, even if it's, that's because it buck stops with you. Right?
For those of you that hear these terms, chief of staff, and it just sounds like another part of the cabinet, the vice president and the president's chief of staff, any political person that has a chief of staff, that's their right-hand person, okay? That means that Pence knows his chief of staff's wife on a first-name basis, probably knows intimate details about their life, and they're probably friends to an extent, okay? So we're talking as close as you can possibly get to Vice President Pence. His wife was working for Peter Strzok and was working on the Russia investigation before she recused herself.
So here are questions that Grassley and the other chairman are asking William Barr, and I believe in my gut that William Barr will answer them truthfully, and it will get him thinking.
Yes.
Okay? So in another universe where we lived in for 2 years, questions that went to Comey or questions that went to Rosenstein, these were accusatory questions.
Yeah.
These are investigatory questions. These are, I know that you're a good guy. I know that you're on the right team. Find this out for me.
Yeah.
1, please describe the nature and extent of your review of FBI surveillance of the Trump campaign, President-elect Trump's transition team, Vice President-elect Pence's transition staff, President Trump's staff, the Vice President Pence's staff, including your efforts to determine whether that surveillance was adequately predicated. How many counterintelligence briefings were provided to the Trump and Pence transition staffs prior to Inauguration Day? Please list the dates, all agencies involved, and each official that represented those agencies at the briefings. Many of the FBI employees involved in these activities are no longer employed by the federal government. How will your review obtain information needed from these individuals? Will you commit to providing the results of your review once completed? What steps have you taken to investigate whether the DOJ or FBI officials had unauthorized contacts with the media during the Russian investigation? So, and they're like, we eagerly anticipate your...
Oh my gosh.
Now,
wow.
Obviously, this was a coup, and we're going to uncover this now. I want to share one more story with you guys, totally unrelated to any of this stuff, but affecting you and me a little bit more.
I like what Donna Terry says here. We don't have enough prisons for everybody. I think she means prisons. But presence works as well. So when it comes to sex offenders, I think that we should just cut off their wanker. I think you mean wiener. Or wanker, I guess you could say that. I think that's a British term for somebody that's not awesome. And let them heal and then turn them back into society. Mm-hmm. I think that would be an equal... I could go with you there. Mm-hmm. I definitely could go with you there, Donateri. I think that's an excellent idea that saves money on the prisons. And it would also help curb future offenders. Mm-hmm. Understanding that, you know what? I think a lot of these people, they're totally fine with going to jail. Because they can still do what they got to do in jail with the people that are in jail or with themselves or whatever. Okay? If you were to take that away from them, they may rethink committing these crimes. That threat alone would be more serious than, yeah.
Yes. So this is very disconcerting to me. We know that there is a measles outbreak in the Orthodox Jewish New York City suburb. No one has died. Let's be clear.
Yep.
And this is not the biggest year for measles outbreaks.
Okay.
Just so you know, but this is one of the biggest concentrated outbreak.
Okay.
What's highly disturbing to me is that they ordered everyone in this area, and I'm not exactly sure how wide the area was. The city's mandatory. The city had a mandatory vaccination rule. This New York City, I'm not sure which. Everyone in the 4 Williamsburg and Bedford zip codes to be vaccinated for the measles. So I'm not sure if there was a map. I think Fox News had up a map, and these 4 areas. If you did not in these areas get a measles vaccination or prove that you have immunity for measles, somehow you have to prove it, you face a $1,000 fine, and 12 people have now been fined.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So 2 pregnant women have been sickened with measles, and 12 people who have violated. Here's the thing. When I say violated, that means you actually have to actively do something.
Right.
I am sitting in my house. You can't come in and say, give me $1,000 or let me shoot you with a vaccine. That's not how this works.
I kind of disagree with you a little bit. Because if there was a zombie outbreak and they had a vaccine for that, then I would be behind this like 100%, because you don't mess around with the zombie outbreak, right? In your society, we don't let that happen. And if there is a vaccine against zombieism, then anybody that does, I'm going to say you get a $10,000 fine if you don't get a vaccine against becoming a zombie, all right? But people have had the measles forever, okay? And it's not a death sentence. It's not a zombie sentence. Most people that get the measles don't die from the measles. Okay, so this is totally different than having vaccines for becoming a zombie.
I want to be clear. I
know you all agree with me.
2 pregnant women were sickened with measles, and 12 people who have violated the city's mandatory vaccination rule. I will say this. Pregnant women who get the measles, which is why it's better to get measles when you're young, because it's a vaccination.
Yeah.
Can pass on,
build up immunity.
Some birth defects, blindness and deafness, heart problems, and that is a proven fact. So I want to throw that out there so people know. But the problem is when you start to mess with the system, you can mess it up.
Well, we also know that vaccines, including the measles vaccine, can produce birth defects as well.
Exactly.
So
exactly. And you can, yes, exactly. So that is what we're talking about here. That's what we're talking about here. No one has died. We've had 6 have needed intensive care. 29 people have been hospitalized, but no one has died. However, children have died from vaccines.
Yes, they have.
And they have had birth defects and long-term autism.
If you guys want to see, if you're unconvinced about the vaccine debate, one way or the other, or if you are convinced and you still, you probably need to be better informed, go to the Montanans, Montanans for vaccine choice.
Yeah.
I think it is, on Facebook. We follow them, and they will share some articles that will shake you up. When you see the side effects that these vaccines have on children, you would be like, you know what? Ain't never vaccinating my child ever. Okay? And these are just immediate defects, not including unforeseen, that doesn't happen for a couple of years, autism and things like that. That happens to your children. So if you think that you're staunchly for vaccines, I would challenge you to watch the movie Vaxxed and to go to the Montanans for vaccine choice. The fact that people that are so pro-vaccines won't have a discussion about vaccine safety should be alarming to you, because these pharmaceutical companies that produce these vaccines are 100% immune from any pharmaceutical company should never be immune from prosecution or being sued or something, liability for their vaccine not being safe. Instead, you, the American citizen, actually pay for the vaccine court that does pay out to people who have had adverse effects and reactions to vaccines. So these pharmaceutical companies are not held responsible. So that's the very first discussion. If you want to come halfway with us, that's where you need to be talking, because these companies need to be held responsible. Now, back to our conversation a minute ago. I want to read this comment from Jay because it's really important. Jay says, America needs a better rape deterrent policy. In Afghanistan, 20 years or so ago, if you got caught stealing, they chopped off your hands. If you got caught again, they chopped from the shoulder down. If you survived that and somehow got caught again, not sure how, when they chopped off your head. Not many people walking around without hands in Afghanistan, but when you see one, you know what they did. Needless to say, they never received a second chance to rape again, says Jay. Thank you very much.
Jay.
Love you.
Jay. So this is Montana's for vaccine choice. Our a girl we met at the Red Pill Expos, I don't know if she's running it, but she's highly involved in this page. I encourage you guys to go like this page and follow this page. They shared an article just today, a testimony. They talk about all kinds of, they're actually, when they talk about vaccine freedom, they're talking about the health of children because they're very pro-life.
Yeah.
And I love that they're pro-life because that's what the element, I have goosebumps, that people don't understand with vaccine choice. It's not about, hey, I don't want a needle in my kid's arm.
Yeah, exactly.
It's I want kids to be as healthy as they possibly can be. I have goosebumps all over me. And even President Trump, there's an article saying that he urged the people there to get vaccines. I think Donald Trump kind of goes with the wind, but that's not really in his soul or in his heart.
No, because when he was elected president, he got together with Robert Kennedy Jr. and said, we need to investigate vaccine safety.
So here's an example of what they shared today. There's a North Carolina bill. During the testimony for Bill 359, Representative Pat McKellough spoke about her experiences working at a hospital where a late-term abortionist plied his trade. She testified. Nurses told of stories of the babies that were born alive and had been taken by the doctor and turned over with their faces down in the
drowned in saline solution.
Faces down.
Right.
Faces down to drown in the saline solution. Most of the nurses refused to work with this abortionist. He only did his abortions on the weekends. One day I was on break, went in to visit with the pathologist in the pathology lab, and I asked him, I said, what are these little pigs doing in these buckets? He told me, Pat, look again, and I did. They were perfectly formed little human babies in those buckets. Their skin was even pinker than a normal baby would be because it had been burned by the saline. Those were the weekend's abortions. McGeloff gave her testimony with only about half of the seats in the gallery filled. Several congressmen seemed to ignore her testimony, reading or working on paperwork as she spoke. He said, this needless, Roy Cooper, Democrat, vetoed the bill. This needless legislation would criminalize doctors and other healthcare providers.
The bill passed, by the way. That's important.
That simply does not exist. Yes.
These governors have a lot of power to veto bills. Belinda says, we have weak immune systems because we get vaxxed at a young age and we don't allow the children to get dirty. Well said.
Let's see. I just wanted to give you an idea of what they had. So is there anything else? They had a recent bill. I'm not exactly sure what it is. Vaccines contain numerous animal and plant proteins, soy, sesame, peanut, wheat, maize. Once immunized with plant-derived antigens, antibody levels will be increased by dietary exposure to these antigens. Meaning, I have no
How many kids have all these wacky allergies these days?
And it's so weird because my friend Maria, her son is just now getting to where he can eat things. Now, it's not every kid who has this, but when it's always the parents whose kids, I have friends who have, 3 autistic kids in the family. I have a friend who did all of her research on vaccines and did the minimum vaccines, and her son can't eat food. Is allergic to all food, pretty much, and gets sick from all food.
And here's the deal. There is no other common denominator in our society outside of GMOs or Roundup or whatever that could be producing this kind of rapid increase in food immune intolerances and juvenile diabetes, juvenile arthritis, autism. We have this massive rise that's on an incline, okay? And outside of saying, okay, God's judgment has fallen on all people, there is no other common denominator other than the fact that vaccines changed in 1990, and ever since then, kids have been getting sicker and sicker and sicker. Okay, it's not red number 5. It's not playing video games. It's not even them playing outside, not playing outside. Yes, those are all small, minor contributing factors. But these are massive changes that are happening in our children, and the only thing that could attribute that is the things that they're injecting inside of their body.
This is the face of a mother. This is what it looks like to be the mother of a baby who passed away a day and a half after receiving her 6-month vaccination.
I can't even. I want to punch people in the face.
It's not uncommon. I have cried so many times in my life over everything, being grounded, over breakups, softball games, movies. I cried, joy, whatever. That cry that came out of me the day I found my daughter, the day I held her one last time, the day of her memorial, I cry every day. And we hear these stories. So no one died from the measles yet. But we do. How come we don't? They literally have a gag order on the stories of children dying,
because that's purely coincidental. It doesn't matter that her child died and was perfectly healthy beforehand a day and a half after her vaccines, okay? It doesn't matter that almost every case of SIDS can probably be tied to a vaccine. That doesn't matter. It's all coincidental. And if your child suffers any kind of adverse reaction to a vaccine and you walk into your doctor with that and say, listen, the vaccine did this, my child had, that doctor will tell you, that nurse will tell you, every medical professional will tell you that that's not what it's from. This is completely random.
Right. So here is an RN who is a vaccinated family.
Get me started.
Who all got the mumps.
4 out of 5 of my family has now had the mumps. I'm also here to tell you, don't freak out. It really wasn't that bad. It was annoying. I got to eat chocolate pudding, got to bed, sit in my bed, be on isolation, right? I mean, there's worse things in the world. I called the Department of Health nurse and I said, this is craziness. This is absolute craziness. What is happening? And she said they are learning in the trenches now. We don't know what we don't know. And now they're learning. She said, there's so many things. I mean, and this is what she said to me. We assume, what we think is how you catch the mumps, like close contact. She said, but clearly you know how to isolate your daughter and your family. So, I did all the things right, you would assume, right? So we should have been protected. I knew people were going to freak out, and we were going to be the targets of the freak out because it's so much easier to blame another person and realize you're at risk. I get it. We're human. I asked her, could you please put the truth in the letter that says that he was vaccinated? Because that's the truth. It's not a lie. She said no. They will not put that in the letter because it could give the anti-vax movement some fodder, some assistance. So they wouldn't protect my family by saying that we did the right things, okay? They wouldn't protect my family, so I had to protect my family. And I'm the one that has to defend my family, even though I did all the right things. That does not sit well with me, because that's not the full truth. And that leads to a lot of blame, which is exactly what it did, a lot of pointing fingers, a lot of assumptions. And that puts us in the situation where it is us versus them. The only way that we can get through this is to create more knowledge and ask really good questions, scientific questions, and put some...
And say, hey, if you've been vaccinated for the mumps, how did you get it?
And I like what Stefan says. How can you say that they don't put permanent sterilization into our children soon after they're born? You have no idea what they're putting, even if it's not intentional. Okay, these things that they're lacing these vaccines with have permanent repercussions, and we have people that are more sterile now than ever before, whether it's the estrogen in the water or taking the birth control pill, or we don't know what, but we do know that women have more trouble getting pregnant now than ever before.
So it looks like the House, and this is, I don't know where Democrats are on this because they're supposedly like freedom medical hippies, right? In Maine, they passed the House, I don't know if the Senate's going to pass it, but the House in Maine passed a measure that would remove religious and philosophical exemptions for school vaccination requirements. I actually hope they do, because it will give another round of people who, I'm not going to homeschool because of religious reasons. I'm not going to homeschool because it's better of an education. But there are people who do not vaccinate, who will not vaccinate their children.
Exactly.
And they are going to be stuck. And those kids are going to be healthier. Because anytime you go, I got a cold. I don't know where I got it from. I went to the hospital. I believe I got it there. But then I saw on our little next door neighbor thing, everybody got it.
Really?
It was everywhere. When you're out, it's just a little flu virus that went around.
So hang on. Jay wants to know, what age are children vaccinated? From the time they come out of mama's womb. And who comes up with the idea that as soon as a child comes out of the birth canal or C-section or whatever, you should stick and inject mercury into them, when women are told they shouldn't even eat fish because mercury might be dangerous for their children? And as soon as they come out of the birth, listen, we're going to stick a bunch of needles that are completely unnatural and inoculate your child with all of these things so that they can build up an immunity to them as soon as the child has come into the earth, into the world for the very first time.
And they
leave
get
it alone.
Here's the thing. What gets me is, if you look at this chart, the very first vaccine they give children is a hepatitis B vaccine.
Because they're at risk of getting Hep B as soon as they breathe air.
If you guys don't know this, that's like a sexually transmitted disease. You do not need a hepatitis B vaccine. Okay? Then here's the thing. Because you don't actually build up the immunity yet, you have to get that Hep B vaccine again at 1 month and again at 6 months. Okay? Then at 2 months, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vaccines. 4 months, you get another set of 5 vaccines.
Well, you're not done.
6 months.
The page goes down.
No, I know. Here, I'm at 6 months. 6 months, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 vaccines. 12 months, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vaccines. And it goes on and on. These are literally...
They want to make it so that there's like 100 vaccines that a kid gets between, by 2030 or whatever. I don't know what the projection is, but it's absolute insanity to think to say that a child that comes into the earth, into the world for the very first time, should be injected with all of these things that have like zero regulations, and the pharmaceutical companies have no repercussion or no responsibility, I should say, for what happened.
This is what I want you guys, I don't know if Michelle can you scoot over a little bit.
Yes.
In 1940, you had the DTP and the smallpox vaccine. Okay? 2. In 1980, you had, at 2 months, you had polio and DTP. 4 months, you had polio and DTP. 6 months, you have DTP and polio. 12 months, you have the MMR. And then the DTP at 18 months, and then again at 5 years. This, 2014. 49 doses of 14 vaccines by the age of 6 in 2012. I know that there's more than that as of now. No. So that's what I want people to understand, is that we're not talking about the polio vaccine anymore, right?
No. Scotty says, my sister had a majorly premature baby. They injected her with tons of vaccines, even ones for STDs like hepatitis. Guess what? She has cerebral palsy. I'm very sorry about your sister's
It's actually
baby.
72
That's
total
awful.
doses now.
Wow.
Pregnancy, a flu vaccine, pregnancy DTaP. Total, my mom, and this is my mom. My mom got 5. This is us, 24. This is why you have to say no, because unfortunately with the MMR, the measles, the mumps, and rubella, it all goes in as one. Okay, and the polio vaccine was its own vaccine. in 1962. And now you have vaccines that are several doses in one shot. And what it does is it compromises the immune system. And some kids, and I would venture to say the kids who have, and I've noticed this is just me, the kids who have the redheaded gene are most severely affected.
Yeah, that's true.
I have seen it just with my friends who have like a strawberry blonde or redheaded gene, seem to have a mutated
green eyes.
A mutation there. And I think it, honestly, guys, I do think that it's either a genetic mutation, or we know that mom had that mini stroke type thing. What happens is a little blood clot gets stuck in your brain and it paralyzes part of your body. Well, when they give you these mercury and aluminum based vaccines, sometimes what happens is that the mercury or the aluminum gets stuck in these people's brains and it affects their immune system and how their body reacts. And autism is located in the brain. So in my opinion, it's not necessarily the vaccine itself. Like if you were to cut a person's skin open, I'm just telling you this, the way they used to give the smallpox vaccine, it's gross, but they used to take off some smallpox from a person who has it. They'd cut your skin open, then they give you some smallpox. People actually died from getting too much of a smallpox that way. So they had to, and some, it was different variant. We know that because John Adams' family was given the smallpox vaccine, and Mrs. Adams was livid that John Adams made them do that. She was terrified. She was terrified of it. She hated John. She was just so angry at him. You made us do this. Your kids are suffering. We didn't need to suffer. And she just was livid.
I want to give you guys a tip for those of you that have family members that vaccinate, or maybe you vaccinate and you're not going to change your mind. You're going to vaccinate your kids. At the very least, if your child suffers an adverse event or reaction, do not let them pump your child full of antibiotics, because some of these kids end up with autism that is caused by a flushing of good bacteria from their gut, and they are forever damaged. Because what happens is, again, like I said, you walk into the doctor's office and you say, my child had an adverse event, and they'll say, no, this is completely random, and their answer is always to pump the child full of antibiotics. It's the worst thing that you can do for your child. Never, ever, ever. Always get a second, or third, or fourth, or fifth, or 10th opinion. Go to a homeopathic doctor before you let them pump your child full of antibiotics, because they could be damaged for the rest of their life, and it can cause autism because of the antibiotics and not so much the vaccine.
We're gonna sign off now.
Very dangerous. I don't have kids yet, but I feel sorry for the people.
And here's the thing, honestly, guys, I want you to go with your gut, because you can't go and say Leah Michelle said or your doctor said.
Thank you.
You got to be led by the Holy Spirit, because you're going to be in a situation that no one's ever been in before.
Well, other people find the people that have been through.
Well, that's true. That's true. That you might not know that other people have been through. So we actually have to sign off now.
Okay.
On that note,
we love you. God loves you. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory. If it's the truth. Jim West says always take a probiotic after antibiotics. You can actually take probiotics with an
antibiotic. You don't probiotics actually go into your system and your gut. And this is God's honest truth. Okay, I know. Don't swear. Don't. Yes. And no. If you want a probiotic, I want you to cut up some cabbage.
Here it comes.
I want you to put 2 tablespoons of kosher or sea salt for 1 quart of water, and I want you to fill that in and pack it in real good, okay? And I want you to put a lid on it, and I want you to drink it and eat it. There are more.
It's called sauerkraut.
There's more probiotics, billions and billions of more probiotics in a little quarter cup of that sauerkraut than you can get in a whole bottle of probiotics.
You can also look into kombucha. I have videos on our channel. Just look up Kombucha on how to make kombucha. You can look up how to ferment vegetables and make your own homemade kosher pickles. that will give you a ton
that's going to
of
be the same
probiotics as well.
Cabbage. Yeah.
Look into fermenting fruits and fermenting vegetables. It doesn't get you drunk. It's not that kind of fermentation, but it's the kind of fermentation that gives you far better and far more probiotics than you can get from taking a probiotic. We drink kombucha. We've got our homemade sauerkraut.
Yeah.
We don't buy store-bought sauerkraut because they boil it and it kills the good bacteria. There's a lot that
I
you
try
can
to
do.
keep a jar of sauerkraut going, and I've noticed that in my gallon jar, it keeps better than in the half-gallon jar. So if you can find a gallon jar. And then what I also do is to keep the probiotics going longer without having to make a whole new batch, I will add a quart of water and 2 tablespoons of salt to that, and the bacteria continue to proliferate in that system.
Yep.
So, anyways.
Okay. We'll be back here on
signing
Sunday. I may or may not be with you, but you will be here.
Yeah.
Because our family belated Easter celebration got belated even further.
Right.
So I had told them the other day that we may not be here, but you will be here. I may be working on the deck. I may not be. We will see. But come back here at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for our European and UK news.
We have a lot to cover. Nigel Farage just keeps running. We got Tommy is running. Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad, is running. We're going to discuss his latest controversial tweet. I'm very excited about Sunday's show, so please come. Remember that God loves you, and we hope that we bring you a message of hope. In the midst of the vaccines, there is hope.
There is hope.
If you have a vaccine injury, there are things you can do. I have lots of friends who are healing the gut, healing their bodies.
A lot of autism is from a compromised gut system that you can heal and curb a lot of those symptoms.
Don't ever give up. Don't ever back down, because guess what, guys? I don't care how healthy of a person you are. You live on a farm. Jesus heals.
Amen.
And I don't want you to ever stop praying and ever stop and ever give up, because we serve a God who redeems a situation. You can say, but I vaccinated my kid and this happened, or myself and this happened, or this happened, or this happened. God can redeem every single situation in our lives, even if it doesn't feel like it, even if it doesn't seem like it. Call upon Jesus. Say, Jesus, what do I do here? I know, God, I know you love me. What do I do? What do I do?
Right.
And believe that he will give you those answers, and don't give up, because there's always hope. Mom loves to watch Turley, Dr. Stephen Turley, because he's always hopeful.
Yeah.
And we hope that you watch our show, because there's always hope, and good things can come out of bad things. And
Amen.
We discuss the bad things, guys, because we want you to redeem those bad things. Jesus, why? Because the message of the gospel is, I've come to set at liberty the captives. How about let's talk about people who are captive, and let's show them how to get free, right?
Right.
Let's recover his sight to the blind, right? You're getting your land back, and I want you to keep believing that, and we're believing with you. This is a journey that we're all on, like Pilgrim's Progress.
I love it.
And we're on it together.
And so I want you guys to check out the latest movie reviews that we've done. We've done 3 recently.
Yep.
We did Unplanned, we did Breakthrough, and we did Pilgrim's Progress. And I want you guys to go and watch those, because I think that you will absolutely
We had a comment. We had a
it.
message from someone who said, I watched your Pilgrim's Progress review. That was really nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, let's see. We have a P.O. Box 107.
Milford, Ohio 45150. Send us your letters. We'll read them on air.
And I would be remiss to say Michelle has got to figure out a way to get that T-shirt one.
Yeah, I know. And
we talk about it like pretty much once or twice a week. I say, Michelle, what do you want to do about it?
And
my suggestion is, I'm just gonna say, hey, put everybody your emails. What happened is that we pulled 2, and they were bots from our website.
Right.
And so what I'm gonna, we should even do it right now. How many people are here?
All right, so here's what I want you to do.
How many people are left here?
There's 43 people here. And there will be people that are watching later on. We're going to redo this one more time, okay? Because what happened is I do get spam emails on the website.
Right.
And so I had several of those. I think I had like 100 submissions. And I think probably only like 50 of them were legit. And so we did a name drawing. So what I want to do again is I want you to actually send it to my personal email.
It's Gmail.
It's masfaith33@gmail.com. Send me your email address, and we will redo the drawing. We still have the creature from Jekyll Island to go. It's sitting over here. And we have the t-shirt from Debbie's Tea Shop. She's the one that made the Resistance Chicks t-shirts. And so Leah and I are personally going to pay for you guys to get a t-shirt of your choice because I want to promote her shop. It's always in the description, including you can also get Maia's stuff, and we promote a lot of things in the description there. So thank you, Maia, for putting Dr. Axe's website in the link. Thank you, Maia, for putting our email address in the chat, including our
so if you guys want to be entered into the drawing, email, just send an email, say entering entries, say right. You can say something nice, say give it testimony.
We will mail it worldwide.
Whatever you want to say.
Give a Polish person won the Creature from Jekyll Island, and I was willing to spend the however much it was going to cost, and I sent them an email, and they never got back with me. I sent them like 3 emails. Yeah. So not my fault. I just don't want anybody to ever think that we are doing a promotion that we don't actually do.
It just didn't work out the first couple times. We had to figure out how to do this. It'd be so much easier if we had like a name and address in a little fishbowl.
Yeah.
You know? It hasn't worked out that way.
But because the people aren't here.
I know. It's online, so it's a little bit different.
It is different.
So we're going to make this happen.
All right, you guys, we're going. Have a wonderful rest of your evening and absolutely fantastic weekend.
Yes.
We love you. God loves you.
God bless.
I was cold.